Hey, second graders. Welcome to our reading lesson today. I'm Mrs. Bateman. Today's learning objective for our reading is how to recount a story. Do you guys know what it means to recount? You might be thinking of like math, where you would count again, but in this case, we are going to retell a story. So what I want you to do really quick is I want you to say out loud, I can retell a story. And that's what we're going to be working on today. When we retell a story, we kind of need to ask ourselves some questions throughout that process of like when we're reading, like what's going on, how is the story coming together. And a quick way to do that is to use our hand. So you guys can put your hand up. And when we retell a story, we're going to have 5, sometimes 6 parts to our story. So when we retell, and with our retelling hand, what are some ways you would retell a story? What are some important things in your story that you would need to use for retelling? You might be thinking characters would be important to add in a retelling of a story. And remember, your characters could be animals or people who the story is about. You might have thought setting. That's where your story is taking place. Not just where, but when. Is it happening during the day? Is it at night? All those things. Another part of our story is the problem. What is the big main event that's happening in this story? What challenges are your characters facing? Another part of our retelling a story is we're going to have to talk about the events. If you can see my poster, you can see it's a little person on a roller coaster, and it has like a B, an M, and an E, and that's for like beginning, middle, and end. So what's happening in the beginning of the story, what events are happening in the middle, and what events are happening at the end. And then when we retell, most of our stories will have solutions to those problems that we mentioned before. So those are your 5 story parts for this. And then some stories like fables and folktales will also have like a central message, what that story is trying to teach you, a lesson. So you can go through them with me. Characters, setting, problems, events, solutions, and sometimes a central message. To make that a little easier, when you're reading, just think about your question words. Who? Who is the story about? That would go with your characters. What is going on? That would be your events, your problems. Where? Where is the story taking place? That would be your setting. When? That would also go with your setting. Why? Why is this happening? That would go with your solutions, your problems, and your events. How? How many? How old? How much? How long? How big? All of those would go with this part too. So now what we're going to do is we are going to read a story, and then we are going to go back and try and retell it. The story we're going to read is The Lion and the Mouse. There once was a great lion who lived on the grassy plains close to the edge of a jungle. Each day he roamed the grasslands, checking that all was well in his kingdom. He feared no one, but everyone feared him. The zebra mothers warned their babies about the lion. Stay away from the lion, keep your distance, and all will be well. All the elephant mothers warned their babies too. I am far too big for the lion to hunt, but you are small. Stay close to me, and all will be well. When it grew too hot during the day, the lion would walk into the jungle where it was cool and dark in the shade of the trees. He would roam through the shady jungle until he reached his cave. There, he slept for a few hours each day. A family of mice also lived in the jungle. They had a nest in a hole in the tree, and each day the young mice were sent to look for food. One little mouse was particularly curious, and he often ventured farther than his brothers and sisters. One day the mouse reached the edge of the jungle, and he saw the great plains of grass and herds of animals. He gasped in fear at the sight of the mighty lion on the rock and scurried back into the jungle. Each day, The little mouse saw the lion walk into his cave to sleep, and curiosity got the better of him. He just had to look inside the cave. So one day, the mouse decided to visit the lion's cave. He knew the lion on the plains, so he crept through the jungle until he arrived at the mouth of the caves. Dare he go any farther? Roar! A giant paw trapped the mouse. It was the lion. Please let me go, begged the mouse. I wasn't causing trouble. Well, you are in trouble, growled the lion. What are you doing in my cave? Just being curious, sir, but if you let me go, I promise one day I will do you a favor. The lion laughed. As if you could help me, king of the beasts? You are so small, but you seem quite brave. Be gone and never come back here again. The mouse scampered away. Some weeks later, he prowled through the jungle. The lion walked into a trap. A big net of ropes fell on top of him. The more he struggled to free himself, the more entangled he became. He realized the hunter would soon return. Exhausted, he lay still and roared softly. The lion saw a tiny creature standing in front of him. It was the mouse. Let me help you, squeaked the mouse, and he set to work gnawing on the ropes. Before long, the ropes fell away from the lion, and he gave a mighty shake. The mouse found himself scooped up into a giant paw. Thank you, growled the lion. Suddenly, the lion placed the mouse on his back. Hold on tight to my mane, he instructed. And then they were racing through the jungle. The mouse held on tightly and squeezed his eyes shut. The lion arrived at the grassy plain and gave a mighty roar. The animals looked up in fear. Meet my friend the mouse, said the lion. He helped me escape the hunter's trap. The small really can help the strong. And from that day on, the lion and the mouse were best friends. Little friends may prove to be great friends. I like that book. So with that and with our hands, so put your hands up, we need to think of how we will retell this story in our own words. But first we need to go through our 5 things to help us retell. So first, our characters. Who were our characters? Hopefully you said the lion and mouse, because those were our 2 main characters. Sometimes you might have other characters that pop in and out. Like in the beginning, we saw the zebra and the elephant, but they weren't like the main characters of the story. Where did our story take place? Well, this one took place in the jungle. Sometimes in stories you'll notice too that the setting can change. Sometimes part of your story might happen in the morning, sometimes some of it will happen in the evening, some may change from being inside to outside. All the story settings can be a little different. What was our problem in this story? Well, our big problem was that the lion gets caught in a net. We also have to think of some of the other events that happened in the story. One of them was that the lion lived in the jungle. He caught the mouse as the mouse crept into his cave, but he let him go. And then later on, the mouse helped the lion. And our solution. What was it that helped with the problem? Well, in this case, it was the mouse rescued the lion because he chewed through the ropes. Now, this is a story where there is a central message or a lesson. And this lesson, let's see if I'll just give you a second to think, to see if you can think of it. Hopefully you said that no matter how big you are, no matter your size, you can always be helpful. And that's the central message, is that no matter your size, you can always help others. So let's go through and try and retell this story in our own words. Put your hands up. Let's see if you can do it. So once upon a time, there was a great lion who lived in the jungle, and he prowled on the grasslands. There was also a little mouse who was curious about the lion. characters. One day, the mouse decided to go through the jungle and follow the lion to a cave. There's some of my settings. And when he got in there, the lion saw the mouse and caught him. But he let him go because he thought the mouse was pretty brave. And the mouse promised to help the lion someday, but the lion just laughed. Well, someday came, and the lion was trapped by hunters. When the lion was trapped, the mouse came back and rescued the lion and said, no matter how big your size, and the mouse ended up rescuing the lion. And so that led us to the end where the mouse and the lion become friends. And no matter how big or small you are, you can always help others. So your mystery homework is I want you to create a hand out of a piece of paper, can be any paper from home, and I want you to put your setting, your characters, your problems, and your solutions all on that hand, and I want you to read a story. And then when you come back to school, I want you to retell me the story using the hand that you created. Well, I'll see you guys later. Bye.